I've received the latest communication, shared it with the defendant and the prosecutors. I'll recite it now. Judge Jones, we cannot come to a unanimous decision as to a verdict. Thank you, foreperson. So, you remember the Allen charge I read you when we first were notified of this deadlock, and I told you that if you simply cannot reach a verdict, then return to the courtroom and I will declare this case mistried. So that's at this point what I'm going to do. If you all can't reach a unanimous verdict, then I accept that fact. I'm going to declare this case a mistrial. So with that, I'm going to give you a final instruction here, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. So it's been almost 3 weeks. As I've told you throughout, and I sincerely meant it every time, and I mean it now. You've been a great group of people. You've been very flexible. You've been very understanding. You've been very patient. You've been very attentive. And obviously, you gave it your best consideration. We can ask nothing more than that. So thank you. I will say this also about this case has received substantial media coverage, and I'm confident that you all have insulated yourself from that as I've asked you to do. I have no doubt that you followed my cautionary instructions to the letter, and I thank you for that. But meanwhile, there's been certainly a lot of coverage. You see the TV cameras have covered this in Court TV. I believe there's a YouTube channel that's covered it as well as the print media. So as I said in this particular instruction, now it's up to you to decide whether to protect your privacy as a juror. There may be requests from many different sources, and you will make that decision as to how you want to handle that. You're no longer under that order that I gave you about not talking to anybody about the case. It'll be up to you. So with that, thank you so much, folks. You're now discharged as a jury in this case. So you can go with the deputies, get your stuff, and take care.
Breaking news in Key West, Florida, in that Treehouse murder trial, a hung jury. That means a mistrial has now been declared. I'm not surprised. I just have to comment because when he was speaking with the defendant and the attorneys, I felt like this judge was really disappointed, and I felt like he was leaning towards the state should have gotten a conviction. But his demeanor with the jury was so appropriate and so much better. I think something's happening. Let's get back inside court.
Back to square one. But in any event, what we need to do is put this case back on a docket. So the question is when? I don't think February 8th makes a whole lot of sense.
Let's go with the March one.
So we've got March 7th pre-trial.
Yes, sir. Judge, we were just asked for the court to reinstate the gag order. There's been so much out there that when we retry this case, we're still going to have to get a jury from this community. to the extent that we can limit now the information that's getting out there. I know that's you know, it's absurd how much attention this case has gotten, but we are going to have to pick a jury again from this community. So I'd ask this court to reinstate the gag order in order to assist us in the endeavor of doing that in a couple of months.
Well, one step at a time, so I will certainly consider that request. So March 7th for the defense?
March 7th, yes.
Okay.
Well, what time do we want? Still 1:30, 9? We've been calling it at 9, even though it's per se.
Well, 9 o'clock is, that, usually the 9 o'clock call is for cases with private attorneys. PD and pro se is usually at 1:30. So I don't know why we should necessarily break from what we've been doing, but if,
9 a.m.?
unless there's any,
9 a.m. works.
all right. So 9 a.m.?
I am March 7th, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give them this notice.
Okay, that's one thing. Next thing, so the conditions of your release remain the same, and we're going to go back to the random, whatever the testing regimen was,
Yes,
in
sir.
terms of whatever substance or alcohol. That's,
Yeah.
you know, I basically during the trial had slacked off on that, feeling that again you were here constantly, you were busy with your defense, and so, but now all the conditions of the release remain in effect.
Okay.
So as far as the protective order or the so-called gag order, does the defense have any position as to that?
Your Honor, I would be of the opinion that it's, look, we vacated the gag order because it became pointless, and I still think it's pointless at this point. Like, again, yes, there has been plenty of media coverage, and I don't see how we're going to roll back and unring the bell at this point. You know, so I don't see the point at this point. I just don't see the point.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, that seems to me to be something that's going to take some thought. So I've got to refresh my recollection as to the extent of that and what that would mean. So that means that,
Right, Judge, we were not allowed to talk about the case to the media, you know, get interviews about, I mean, the defendant was posting on Facebook all day today, even during closing arguments. So, I mean, how are we ever going to get a jury here in 2 months that hasn't heard something about this case and is tainting this jury pool?
Your Honor, if I might, I somehow doubt the world.
let's relax. Not everybody just relax, okay? There's just, I know it's been a long 3 weeks, but now's not the time to get too argumentative. I got to think about this. I understand the impetus, but and the rationale. I'm just asking myself the practicality of it and the enforcement of it, and you know, I need a little time to think about it.
I understand, Judge. Let me just put on the record. Last night I received about 11 threats on my phone, on my personal cell phone. They started yesterday afternoon, they continued into the evening. I don't know how my cell phone number got out there. I suspect how it got out there. But now I'm receiving death threats to the point where I'm going to have to change my phone number. This is what I'm talking about. This kind of media blitz is affecting me personally, and I don't think it's right. So I'll be changing my phone number because somehow my phone number has been compromised, and I got threats against myself and my family.
Judge,
So,
Mr. Tucker, please, just
Well, hold on, not Mr. Tucker.
let me just. Mr. Mansfield has just raised a legitimate concern. I'll give you the chance to respond. So that's very troubling. I certainly am disturbed by that fact. I've received in my office, which I've endeavored not to read the emails or ask my assistant not to, to tell me what these phone calls are about. I'm not aware of any threats, but I'm certainly aware of people's criticisms and comments and opinions. That's a natural product of the coverage this case has received. And so all I'm asking myself, and I'll confess, I don't know that I have my head wrapped around the issue right now. I remember the order that I issued. I reviewed it at the beginning of the case when I suspended it, and it was pretty involved. And I would think I'm almost inviting problems if all of a sudden I say, oh, it's in effect, and all these people are curious and the like start talking and asking questions, and I don't want to have anybody in a gotcha situation. So certainly I think rules and ethics and laws would certainly say that there should be no communicating threats, no intentional rabble-rousing, so to speak. I don't know what, or directing animosities or hostilities or anything toward anybody in this case. And I'm certainly not going to be pinpointing or blaming anybody. So I don't know what more I can say than that. I don't know, Mr. Tucker, now you want to say something?
Actually, I didn't say anything earlier, Your Honor, but I would like to say this. Look, I receive, I don't know how much hate mail myself, right?
Okay.
And I do, don't get me wrong, I do take offense at the, was it the innuendo that somehow, I had something to do with Mr.
Never said that.
No, I don't think.
I think it was an innuendo, though.
Well, I didn't construe it as such, but there's no.
Anyway, I have no control over those people, what they do, and I somehow doubt the whole world looks at my Facebook.
Oh.
So anyway, thing is, Your Honor, like I said, I think I'm still of the opinion that we vacated it for a reason. Same reason I would say that it's probably not a good idea to reinstate. But I'm deferring to the court at this point because you say you need time. I'm more than willing to let you have time.
Okay.
Decide as you may.
Well, in any event.
Judge, may I add one final point with your permission?
Okay, go ahead.
Just very briefly, Judge, whether you lift or vacate the order or reinstate it, you did ask us once you vacated it to act professionally amongst each other. And I can tell the court that the state has been called dirty bastards, you've been berated, and we have not once made a comment about the defendant in this case. So we should at least have that level of ethics amongst us and not have to face that on a day-by-day basis.
Okay. I don't think Mr. Mansfield indicated, I certainly didn't construe it as somehow or other you encouraging or being the source of these threats. But there's no doubt, Mr. Tucker, that you have endeavored over the course of this to make this a public affair with all your social medias and all your other efforts to publicize it. That's coming from your side of things. That's just a fact.
No, that is a fact, Your Honor. I'm not going to deny it.
So to the extent that, unfortunately, there's folk in this world, this country, that they get riled up about certain things and act inappropriately. I know that's a very general statement, but it's an offshoot. So I do agree with Mr. Alvarez. I did say that, and I think mutual respect is what I would expect. And if I need to have some, or if there needs to be some evidentiary hearing or some showing when there's a renewed motion to reinstate the protective order, I'll be happy to do it. I'm just saying right now at this point in time for me to just put my foot down and say, oh, it's back again. I understand the request, but please understand my belief that I need to look at it with a clear head.
Your Honor, I'm just to reaffirm or reassure you, yes, I can go ahead and tone my language down. I can definitely do that. Again, if mutual respect is what you're looking for, I have as you saw this morning, I do have some ethical concerns myself, but at the same time, I can at least keep my public persona as far as what I say respectful.
Thank you. So, I think that's pretty much it for now.
Sir, thank you, Your Honor.
Appreciate everyone's hard work. I'm just going to sign this order here as to the
All right, so if you're just joining us, the judge just moments ago declared a mistrial in the Treehouse murder trial. It was interesting because there was a question there as to whether the state would retry. We didn't think there would be answers so quickly, but basically they made it very clear they plan to retry. They even set a date, March 7th. They'll be back into court. I thought at that point that's when the decision would be put forth. I thought they'd go back to their office, maybe discuss, but they've already made the decision, Judge. They will retry this man.
That's right, because they said when we retried this case. I too thought there'd be some discussion, let it sit, decide, but even the judge said, all right, we got to put it down on the docket to find out dismissal or not, and then we got a pretrial date of March 7th. So, wow, I'm a little surprised.
I am surprised. He will be released pending that date, and it sounded like I wasn't aware of this. Apparently there are some conditions to his release. He has to come back, be tested for various drugs or whatever drugs or alcohol they're testing him for, so he'll be subjected to that, have to stick around. So we'll certainly be following that as well. Let's bring in our guest joining us this hour, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marie Pereira. Marie, great to see you. Thanks for joining us once again here in the studio. First and foremost, let me get your reaction. The judge was right. She had been saying all along she thought this might be a hung jury. That's exactly what it turned out to be.
I'm not surprised. Yesterday I was on Vinny's couch and I said 50-50. And I think that even the DA knew it was coming because like you guys said, there wasn't even a let's go back to the office and figure this out. Do we want to try him again? They already knew what they wanted to do, which tells me they saw it, the writing on the wall, that it could be a hung jury, and that's exactly what it was. They didn't have to flinch. They took the glass of haterade and they want to do it all over again.
And I think a glass of haterade. And, you know, I think what bothers me is I felt like listening to the entire trial that there was enough evidence for it to be a hung jury, meaning that witness saying he didn't do it, I think was enough for someone obviously to have reasonable doubt. So Marie, I don't think that this is an inappropriate decision based on the evidence that was presented.
I agree with the verdict, and I disagree with the judge that there wasn't a conclusion. A mistrial is a verdict, in my opinion, because at least for now, he's vindicated because there was enough reasonable doubt that all 12 jurors couldn't come to a conclusion. So it's a win for Ty Tucker, and it's a disappointment and a little bit of an embarrassment for the DA's office to get a mistrial with a person who really we all thought was just fumbling the ball, not knowing the rules, not knowing the quorum. Listen, he did that, all right? Ty, congrats.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can go about it. I mean, they lost to a pro se defendant, and that just tells you a little bit about the strength of their case. But I will say this, as just before we go to break, is that they offered him a deal. Time served. He was in jail for 6 years. They offered him, they said, look, take the deal, you plead guilty, and you get the 6 years you've already served. So I'm just surprised that he served those 6 years already. And now that they've gone to trial, and they, without even taking the time to find out what the split was with the jury, they decide they're going to retry him. Just a little surprised by that.
Yeah, that was an excellent point you made. You're right. He served 6 years, although presumed innocent.
All right. We'll step aside now and take a break. So keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, they're the first parents to face homicide charges in relation to a mass school shooting. Now, as the school shooter mom trial gets underway, we'll look at the legal ramifications this could have moving forward. Plus, we're in a verdict watch in the Treehouse murder trial with the defendant representing himself. Did he do enough to put reasonable doubt into the minds of this jury? We're live from Florida as deliberations continue.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
Huge breaking news. The Treehouse murder trial that we've been bringing you from Key West. Well, the defendant, who represented himself, had a huge win, a hung jury. The judge has just declared a mistrial in this case. Let's go straight to our Court TV crime and justice correspondent, Matt Johnson, who just came out of that courtroom after the mistrial was declared. Matt.
Yeah, Judge Ashley, you could hear a pin drop in that courtroom when the judge said that he didn't want to, but he declared a mistrial. Over at the defense table was pro se defendant Ty Tucker. This has been a 3-week-long experience for you. How do you feel right now? What's going through your mind?
Actually, what's going through my mind is, like I was just telling you, I want to go home. I want to, see my dog. I've been miss him. But the other thing is, I'm thinking is, as we come back for the second one, I think it's March 7th is when we're going to come back and try it again. I think we're going to do a lot better the second time around. And I'm not so sure about the prosecution, so we'll see.
How are you feeling that the fact that this still is not over? This has been several years bringing it to this point. You became pro se back in September officially, and you helped pick this jury. Were you hoping for a mistrial? Were you hoping for a not guilty? Where are you with this?
I was hoping for a not guilty, that's true. When the prosecution did what they did in their close, that I wasn't, I knew that skewed the odds a little bit. But again, that's not going to happen the second time around. So the second time around, I get to come back with Todd O'Quinn, which I did not. I get to come back with the other witnesses I had, which I did not. So I have a feeling our return for the second round is going to be a lot better than it was the first time.
What are you planning on doing differently? Are you already starting to think about that? I know that you're still grappling with the news right now of a mistrial.
You haven't known me long, but you know me well enough to know that. Yes, I am already thinking about what I'm going to be doing and how I'm going to change things. So yeah. So, like I said, the second time around, look, I barely got to put on a defense the first time. There's some mistakes I made the first time. I'm trying not to make the second time, so we'll see how it goes.
Today you tried to enter in more evidence after all the evidence was entered in this trial, even, that happens before closings. Mm-hmm. But you tried to have a particular video, an interrogation, entered into evidence today. Is that going to be part of your strategy? Are you going to hope to have that introduced next trial?
It wasn't so much evidence that, again, it wasn't so much evidence. This one was, the allegations they made in their close, when they made, was the comment of, there's no possible way he could have known, when they knew they had that video that came from them. And it's like, okay, no, it's one thing, okay, if you want to put up a fair fight, fine. That's good. That's what they're supposed to do. But that was not exactly, like I said, we have ethical concerns here, so.
And prosecutors were telling the judge that they're concerned about threats against themselves and their families, and you were saying that you're also receiving threats.
Oh, I don't know about threats, but I definitely get I get my fair share of people who don't like me. People who have negative things to say. They're posting up on my Facebook. They're posting up and sending me emails, whatever. But look, it's the nature of this thing. It's like, okay, no, some people are always going to think I did this, no matter what, right? It doesn't matter. They could come out tomorrow and put billboards up saying Ty didn't do it, right? Some people are always going to feel that way. Fine, and for them, again, I can't say as far as what they've been receiving, what's been happening. I mean, that's for them. Again, I don't personally know. I don't know what they're actually getting at, or whether he was just playing that up to play it up. I don't know. But I do know that yes, if you're going to prosecute this case and you're going to do it with the kind of evidence they came with, I mean, you're going to receive some criticism.
Well, there's also criticism over the fact that you've been so vocal about your story and your defense. Prosecutors were hoping to get the gag order reinstated. You argued against it. Why do you want to talk to the media and share your story?
Well, because, I mean, there's a lot of things that happened in this case that people aren't aware of. And personally, like I told the judge, I mean, I don't know if you guys caught that day. Yeah, you had to have when I did my JOA. When I said this case should have never gone to trial, it should have been dismissed a long time ago, legally, right? And that part, people need to know.
Well, March 7th, you're still facing life behind bars if your next jury convicts you.
Yeah.
Is there any regrets for not taking one of the many plea deals?
No, I told you that before. And man, look, part of it, I actually even talked this over with Jerry when you saw him in there. It's like, look, part of the reason I'm here is because people do that, right? And I understand it. I understand how scary it is. I understand, you want to get home, you want to go back to work, you want to, get on with your life. I get that. But every time somebody takes a plea, when they didn't do it, well, these guys, they rely on that. They've come to the point where they rely on the plea. They looked at me shocked when I didn't take the plea, like you're supposed to take it. No, I didn't do it, so take me to court, take me to trial.
So today, the jury began deliberations. Did you wake up, had it run past your mind that you may be incarcerated tonight and not go home?
Yes, actually, and it ran through my mind to the point where, yes, I did post up on Facebook, and I was saying, basically I'm telling people that, man, this might be it for me. It might be the last post I make, I don't know. But the thing is okay, I'm willing to accept the consequences, if I lose. But again, if this is the best they've got, I don't see it.
And you have restrictions, right? Because you have an ankle monitor on.
Yes, I do. And again, right now, even when I'm down here, I can't leave my hotel room unless I'm doing something, something for the case, something like that. I'm not free. Even when I go home, I have to email the court to take out my trash or to go check my mail. I can't leave my apartment. So
this all happened at the Treehouse, which is also kind of a flop house. It was a drug house. You're sober now, right? How long have you been sober?
Well, I mean, sober is a relative concept, but
what does that mean?
Well, that means, don't get me wrong. Weed is definitely legal in Oregon. So, again,
a lot of things are legal in Oregon. So, are you sober?
That is true. I wouldn't say I was sober, but I'm not. I'm within compliance as far as this goes. Because I smoke weed. I don't think anybody out there cares about that. But yes, I'm in compliance as far as what I need to with this. Now, as far as the flop house part of it, the Treehouse, I would have to agree with you there. I'm not going to say it wasn't, what it was. But like I told you, I've been there 3 times. One time when I was looking at the place for rent, right? And the other 2 times, yes, I was there, man, because Todd O'Quinn was staying there. And yeah, I was coming home from the bar and I just crashed out with, there, as opposed to making it home. Now that, my life was definitely different then. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was definitely different. Living a different lifestyle. Down here, I don't know if you've noticed down here, they like to drink a lot, and smoking weed down here, it's still illegal here. So that you can't get away with that one here. But I guess it depends on where you're at and what your beliefs are. My personal belief is I don't care what people do, as long as they're not hurting other people.
How hard will it be to pick the next jury? You mentioned the fact that, this has received such attention from coast to coast. We've been covering it on Court TV.
The thing is, yes, I do think people need to look at this case. I really do. And I think they need to look at the history of the case more than just what happened in this courtroom, because there were a lot of things that led up to this. And even Jerry and I were talking about the long road we came, to get here. And whether or not it was smart for me to go pro se or not. We were discussing the benefits and drawbacks of it.
Are you happy you did?
Yes, actually I am. Because, even in my pro se motion, if you ever read my pro se motion, it's available on the court website, the clerk's website. But the thing is, one of the things I said in there is, yes, I have excellent attorneys. Karen and Jerry are excellent attorneys, no doubt. But you know what? This case doesn't take an excellent attorney to win. That's what I said.
Okay. So for the viewers that are just joining us, because, this case has been building momentum, I know you've said it before. I've asked you before, for their benefit, were you involved in the murder of Matthew Bonnet that night?
I had nothing to do with the murder of Matthew Bonnet. I had nothing to do with the robbery. I had nothing to do with any of this. I've said it 1,000,000 times. I'll say it 1,000,000 times over. The reason I'm even willing, look, if I had done this, I probably would have sat there, shut my mouth, let my lawyer do his thing, and tried to get the best deal I could, right? But when you didn't do it, look, I don't care what people say. When you didn't do it, don't take the deal. Make them come with the evidence that they have. It's like, and they'll try and scare you, and they'll try and intimidate you. He's sitting there talking about intimidating emails or whatever, and phone calls. I've been intimidated for 6 years over this, trying to force me into a deal, and I'm not going to do it.
Well, tonight you're able to sleep in your own bed, at least at the hotel, and then you're going to make your way back home. What does tonight look like for you?
Relaxing, kind of. Look, I haven't been able to relax for a long time. I don't know if you've noticed, but over the course of this 3 weeks, I came in here, I had energy, but I'll tell you what, I've been getting more and more drained as we've gone along.
Today you looked pretty serious.
But I'll tell you what, it's, just not having to do this day to day, and just every day I gotta admit, I miss the running around that they used to do for me. I gotta say, but yeah, it's tiring. It is.
Final question: will you be pro se next trial?
There's a good chance of it, there is a good chance, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Jerry was wanting another try at it. We'll see, man. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Exclusive interview, first interview since the decision of a mistrial here in Key West. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Matt Johnson, wonderful job with that interview. Truly appreciate it.